In addition to placing orders through the standard order entry window, you can place orders directly from the quote board or from the chart. Let's take a look at those. We are going to work off of the page that I created for our brokerage clients titled DT Quotes. You can see it here. Now, if you don't have DT Quotes and you are a client of ours or you're on a trial, send me an email and I'll send you the link to upload this into your platform. Otherwise, you might have access to the standard home screens or quote board screens that are built into the StoneX version of the platform. We'll go back to DT Quotes. Now on this screen, traders have easy access to charts. You can see at the bottom, I have it linked to my quote board. So if I click on the NASDAQ chart populates. If I click on the S&P, now we're looking at the S&P, so on and so forth. First, we're going to talk about placing orders through the quote board. Let's say that I'm okay with this little chart. By the way, you can expand it if you need to see something bigger and make it smaller. So you don't have to deal with a short, narrow chart. And if you want to resize things, you can just drag and drop. I'm going to go ahead and place a couple of orders real quick just so we can see what they look like here on the quote board. I've actually created columns for orders and for open positions and P&Ls right here. So for example, let's buy a NASDAQ at the market. Two ways to do it. I can click the buy button up here and then choose to buy at the market or toggle my quantity, whatever it is I want to do, place a limit order. I'm going to go ahead and buy at the market. You can now see that position is open right here right in my quote board. I can see I'm long one, I can see the price, and I can see the P&L. So far, that trade's not working out. I think it's fair to say that. I can also, let's say I want to place a limit order to sell that position at a higher price. Once I do that, I see my order working here in the sell column. If I had an order to buy, I could also see that order there. I'm going to also enter an order to buy. I'm just randomly picking prices. There's obviously no strategy here. I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes. But you can see I'm long a contract. This is the NASDAQ. I have an order working to sell. I have an order working to buy. I can see it right in my quote board. Another way you can enter orders is by selecting the product. In this case, the E-mini S&P. Again, I have my chart populated. I'm looking at the E-mini S&P. If I right click, I can choose buy or sell. So I'm going to choose buy. And I'm going to toggle a few ticks below the market and let that work. In a previous tutorial, I've gone over the order ticket, but I'll do it real briefly here once again. If you are buying on a limit or a stop and you use these parameters, choosing day order, limit order, stop order, to submit your order, you're going to use the bar at the bottom. If you are simply buying at the market, you can just click this button. If you are buying at the ask or the bid, you can click these buttons. Now you can see I have my order working to buy, and you can see at the top, it shows how many working orders I have. I have 2 buys, 1 sell. 1 buy in the NASDAQ, 1 buy in the S&P, and 1 sell in the NASDAQ. A few other things I'll point out in the quote board. And again, this is DT Quotes. This is a page we've created. If you'd like a copy and you're a client of ours, let us know. Your quote board probably doesn't look like this if you're not using the one that we've created, because we've specialized it or customized it for what we think is going to be the best fit for our clients. There is an option button. So if somebody wanted to trade options, they could click this button and it would open a chain. There are obviously high, low, open, settlement. But if you scroll all the way to the right, you'll find an expiration date and a first notice date. So we can see that the stock indices expire on the 21st of March. And that's actually a good idea to have that right there visible, because believe it or not, people forget. And if you were trading something like the grains or the metals, you would see a first notice date there. You'll notice there's also a little button here next to your buy and sell. If I click on that, it's going to show me orders that I have working in the product that's selected. And if I want to cancel it, I can cancel it. If I want to change it, I can change it. If I want to add a bracket, I can. For example, let me click back on this. If I click the drop-down menu, once I have this menu open, I have the option to cancel the order, modify the order, duplicate it, create a bracket. So you can do everything right from here if you want to. I find that a little bit confusing. I like doing it from the board itself. I'll also point out that this informational and drop-down box here correlates to what you have selected. So if I click the NASDAQ, which has an open position and a buy and a sell order, you'll notice that it shows long one, my price, my P&L, and then it shows 1 and 1, meaning one buy, one green one is buy, one red one is sell. Again, I could do the same thing, click on this down button, and I could choose to cancel the orders. I could choose to do further actions by choosing this triangle. I can click on information to get more details about the order. I could flatten everything. If I click this, you're probably not going to want to click this in most instances. That'll basically liquidate everything you have at the market. You can cancel all. You could open it in a widget, meaning it's going to open a working orders widget. I'm not sure why anyone would do that. You might as well just have one open and ready if that's how you're going to trade. And one other thing I'll show you, if you click on park orders, it's actually going to park your orders. That means they're no longer going to be working. They're going to go into a parked state, which is kind of like on standby. Again, I'm not sure why you'd do that, but some people might find that useful. You can click directly on your position in the quote board and choose to liquidate, reverse, close, go flat. If I choose reverse, I'm long one, it's going to sell 2 contracts. That'll leave me short 1. I'm going to do that just for fun, see what happens here. Okay, now I'm short 1. My orders are still working. Just because you liquidate your open position doesn't mean the exchange knows to cancel your others unless you enter them as a bracket, which I showed in a previous tutorial. One thing that might be a little bit tricky is you can obviously see your buy and sell orders right on the quote board. Keep in mind, if you want to take action on those from this column here, you're going to have to double click on the order. So for example, if you single click, nothing's going to happen. If you right click, it's going to bring up your browser menu. That's not what you want to do, obviously. But if you double click, it brings up the order details. You can click on information if you want further information. You can click on order actions if you want to modify it, cancel it, so on and so forth. But you could easily cancel it from here. And if I click on the order's price, I can open up a dialog menu to toggle up and down. I'll show you that one more time. I double click. If I want to modify it very quickly, I click on the price. I can toggle up or down. I'm going to put a few more positions in here so you can see what it might look like if you have a portfolio of positions. You can see every time I enter an order notification box pops up. That is optional. You can turn that off if you'd like, but I love that. I love having it remind me or notify me that I'm filled. And it's also great because you can click on order actions here and actually enter a stop loss on that position, duplicate it, bracket, whatever the case is. Let's say we're going to enter a stop loss. This was an order in which I sold a Russell. So we're going to place a stop loss. It'll be a buy stop. And I can, from this dialog box, I can choose profit target if I want to make it a bracket, but I'm just going to do a stop. And I don't want it to be ticks, I want it to be price, or I could say dollars. Let's say I want to only risk $500. The platform figures out the math for me. It puts in my stop loss here. I can double click just to see where the price is. As a reminder, I can right click on the symbol itself in the quote board, and I can choose liquidate, reverse, cancel orders, just like I could from this menu here. Some of you prefer to enter your orders in the chart, and that's perfectly fine. You can do that on this platform. What you'd want to do is click on this arrow here, and that opens up a trade pad. Now again, you may not want your chart to be this small. Keep in mind, this platform can be customized any way you want it to be. You don't have to settle with what you've got. If you don't like the way it is, you can change it. For example, what if I want my chart to be half of the screen. I could drag and drop. And I can make the chart half the screen and the quote board the other half. Because let's face it, you don't need to see the open interest every time you place a trade. You may want to have that information handy, but you don't need to see it on your screen. So you could do something like this, and then maybe scrunch it down so you see your positions, or rearrange things so that you can see your positions here. Again, I'm just throwing these ideas out there. You don't have to do that. You can set it up any way you want. But if you drag and drop your windows, you can resize and reorganize. If you like your chart to be bigger, you can click on full screen. So you can toggle between full screen and half screen. And these buttons are pretty self-explanatory. Buy at the market, sell at the market. If I click buy, obviously it's going to enter an order to buy. If I click sell, it's going to enter an order to sell. Now you'll see that there's no notification window popping up, and that's because I've turned them off. Most of you probably don't want to do that because, as you can see, I'll do it one more time. You can place a trade very quickly this way. It's not allowing you to confirm anything. It's one click and it places the order. So I'm now short 2 NASDAQ. So it's probably a little uncomfortable. It's a demo account, so it's not that uncomfortable. Just like the standard order entry ticket, you've got some bids and asks to work with. I can buy at the ask. I could buy at the bid. I can sell at the bid or sell at the ask. So to clarify, there's a lot of moving pieces here, so I'll try to explain. Without my cursor being over the trade pad, I can see there's a red box and a green box. And there's an A next to the price. You see the A and the B? That's for bid and ask. So that's how we know what the bid ask is for the current futures contract. There's 2 things we can do with the bid and the ask. We can either buy it or sell it. If you want to buy at the market, you would buy the ask. So if I put my cursor over here and I choose buy at the ask, it's going to enter an order to, it's actually going to be a limit order to buy at the ask. So it's a little bit different than a market order. If you entered a market order by clicking this button, it would immediately just it would just send an order to buy at the best possible price. It may or may not be exactly what you're seeing here because the ask can move very quickly. As we're seeing, it's jumping around 2, 3, 4 ticks in a single clip. So buying at the market means you don't care about the price, you just want to get in. If you're buying at the ask, you're saying, I'm willing to give the market a little room and I'm willing to get taken advantage of a little bit, but I still want to be in, but with a limit to the slippage. So that would be buying the ask. To be 100% honest, I think just buy at the market. If you're buying at the ask, what might happen is you end up chasing the price because you're trying to save yourself a tick, and you might end up paying 3 or 4 extra ticks just as the market moves against you. But in any case, if you wanted to buy the ask, you could do that. Some people might choose to sell the ask. If you're selling the ask, you're saying, I want a limit order to sell at a little bit better than what the current market price is. And if you wanted to buy the bid, you would be buying it a little bit better than what the current market price is. Or you could sell the bid, which is similar to a market order, only you're kind of limiting the slippage. Again, I'm not a big fan of buying the ask or selling the bid. I think you're better off just using the buy market and sell market. That way you know for sure you're going to get filled and you're not going to end up playing that mental game of chasing the market. These buttons are pretty self-explanatory. You can toggle your lot size, 1, 2, 3, 4 contracts. If you're someone that trades a good amount of size, you can use these buttons to load a 5 lot or a 10 lot. You can change your order type here, stop or stop limit. I recommend using stop orders, not stop limit orders. Stop limit orders sound good on the surface. Basically what that is a stop order that's modified to limit the amount of slippage, and that sounds great. But if you modify it in a way that only allows for a small amount of slippage, you might as well not have a stop at all because there's a good chance the market just runs through it without filling you and you have 0 price protection. Everybody has a different opinion on that, but my opinion is use a stop order. Now, I'll also say the exchange's stop order, traditional stop orders, is actually on the back end of stop limit. So even though we're placing a stop order, the exchange has a limit in place to where they think there's too much slippage, they're not going to fill the order. And that does happen on occasion. It takes something really out of the ordinary as far terms of volatility, but it can happen. You can toggle between day, good till canceled, good till a specific date. And there's a few others. I'll go over those at a different tutorial. I'll also go over these in another tutorial, but there is the ability to place trailing stops, trailing limits, so you can trail orders as well in this platform. The last button here is the bracket mode, and I've gone over this in a previous tutorial, so I'm not going to get deep dive into it. But if you wanted to click on that, it turns on the bracket mode, and you can set up your custom brackets. If it's orange, it's on. If it's gray, it's off. While you have the chart open, there's two places you can see your position. I'm short 2 from this price. Here's my P&L, so I can see it here. There's also some information here towards the middle of the trade pad that shows the change. You can see this triangle net change. That's change on the day of 65, so the market's up 65 points on the day. The number below that is the total volume. The BA is the bid-ask spread. You can see it's going between 0.5 point and 0.75 point. So you can kind of gauge what the liquidity and the panic is in the market. If that BA bid-ask spread widens, when I say widen, I'm not talking like a couple ticks. I'm talking a point or two. That's when you know things are a little out of sorts and the market's dysfunctional. It doesn't happen that often, but it does happen. Some of you are accustomed to trading from the chart with clicks. For example, you might look at this and say 22,500 is a good place to sell. If you click on the board at that price and enter a sell order, you can do it, but it's unfortunately not going to populate the price that you expected it to, or based on where your cursor was. You can easily type it in. After entering that order, you can see that my chart really hasn't changed. You can't see that order working here. I can see it if I click on this drop-down menu. I can see the 22,500 orders there. So I did place it successfully, and it is working, and here are my other working orders. I would suspect that if you are someone that trades from the chart, you probably want to see those orders right on the chart. So you're going to need to change your settings. Right-click with your cursor in the chart, choose Manage Chart, and look for the icons that are labeled Orders, and highlight the eyeball. If the eyeball's highlighted, you can see your order on the chart. And you're also going to want position and average fill prices so that I can see my positions and my working orders on the chart. You may want to toggle on this as well. This is the settings menu, and you can kind of customize what you're looking at. You can see maybe you only want to see working orders, not filled orders, vice versa, so you can play around with it. Now you can see right here that I have the order working on the chart. There's a little yellow line or icon. If I put my cursor over it, I can see the details of the order working. Here's another one that I have working, and here's also a buy limit that I have working. I can rescale my chart by clicking here. So if you find yourself in a situation where your chart is not very pretty to look at, click on this button down here on the lower right, and it should stretch it out for you. If that doesn't work, you can try grabbing your margin and moving your cursor up and down. That works on both the right and bottom axis. If you're like me and you're a little bit older and your eyesight's going, you might not love that you cannot change the fonts in this platform. So my recommendation is to make sure you're viewing it on a screen that you can expand. You know, maybe you need a decent sized monitor, because this is probably as good as it's going to get as far as visualizing these orders. That's unfortunate. But if I click on it, I can get a lot more information. It's a lot easier to read. You're not necessarily going to be able to drag your order on the chart, but if you double click it, you can modify it again. In this menu, if you click on Modify Price, I can toggle it up a little bit and change my order that way. If I double click my sell order, I can do the same thing. One last thing about chart trading, you can see my position, see the S2. If I put my cursor over there, the current price blocks it out, but you can see it without my cursor there. It says S2. That means I'm short 2. And just like the other screens that I've showed you, the quote board and everything else, I can click on that and choose liquidate or reverse. I'm going to reverse it and go long. So we just bought 4 NASDAQ, offset 2 of our shorts, and now we're long 2. We can see our price from up above. we still see our orders working here and up here. If you ever get confused and you're not sure what all your positions are, you can always go back to, minimize your chart, go back to your quote board, and you can see everything very clear. I'm long on mini S&P. I'm long 2 NASDAQs now. I am long a Dow. I am short a Russell. Obviously, you probably don't want to trade in this manner. You don't want to be long or short all the same markets with all the same correlation. But for demo purposes, this works. I'll also point out that you can see all the same information on my chart as I see here in the quote board. I'm highlighting on NASDAQ, so my NASDAQ chart is visible. My positions are visible. I can trade from this pad here. I can trade from up here. I can see all my positions here, so I can see and act anywhere on the screen. If I click on the S&P, my S&P position comes in. I can buy or sell the S&P right here from the quote board, or from the chart, from the quote board. I can click here. I can flatten everything. I'm going to click this flat button, and it's going to sell my S&P. You can see I no longer have an S&P trade. I'm going to click on the NASDAQ, and I can do the same thing. I can flat, or I can click all, and this is going to cancel all orders. I'm going to go ahead and flatten everything. The flat button canceled all my orders and got me out of the market. I could do the same thing from here, the middle of the quote board. So as you can see, you don't have to move your mouse very far to take any type of action. It's up to you if you want to do it from the middle of the screen, if you want to do it from the upper right, if you want to do it from the chart. Wherever your cursor happens to be, you can take action. That concludes the tutorial of trading from the quote board or the chart. One more time, if you do not have access to this screen and you want something that looks like this and feels like this and you're a client of ours, let us know. We'll get it to you.